I see a lot of religions actually forbidding alcohol, drug use, smoking, gambling, and other materialistic things. Now, mind you, I've said that materialism has been rejected by church because they see where capitalism goes and they want to control it. They think that they can somehow hold mastery over it in much of the same way that fascism is. Obviously, religion came before fascism, but the tenets are about the same. They think that property is okay so long as it's mandated and it's regulated so that it can benefit the superorganism of the state or the community or the religion or culture or whatever. Now, some might wonder how a communist can be materialistic and at the same time a communist, obviously. In my mind, it makes perfect sense to be much more materialistic as a communist than as any other political denomination because of the fact that we understand that we don't get to have the nice things. Because of the fact that we don't own something, we are always at somebody else's mercy of using it. Now, what does this have to do with spirituality? What does not being able to use something as you should be able to have to do with religious doctrine? Because it's one thing to say it's wrong that, you can never act in accordance to your own will. That's wrong from a human rights perspective. It's wrong the fact that we have only about 3 or 4 websites we commonly use, and all of them think they have the right to fucking ban us at a whim. That is wrong from an objective standpoint. So where does metaphysics play into that? Well, metaphysics plays into that because if we concern ourselves with the material, we are not subject to the will of the spiritual. In other words, as I've said, we are puppeteered by spiritual entities. You can choose not to believe that. You can choose to just believe that you've been indoctrinated from a young age by your parents, by your church, by, even the government, by everything. You can choose to believe that, and you would be right. You have been indoctrinated by all those very real forces. But I do think that there is more to life than simply what we see before us. Does this mean that we're all going to go to heaven? No. Does it mean there's reincarnation? No. Does it mean anything that religion said? No. I am merely suggesting that there is more, and we have not delved into that more. But philosophically, if there is more, then we have to admit that this more has some reasoning for intervening in mortal affairs. In other words, they have something to gain by making us think the way they want us to think. Why else would they intervene? Clearly, they have a will to power. Clearly, they have something they need to do, either by compulsion, by desire, or by some kind of trans-dimensional requirement. Maybe it is a prerequisite to their own existence. I don't know. But what I'm telling you is that in life, if you lean more towards the material, you can't be as subjected to the spiritual whims of demons and other entities that you do not even know whether or not is controlling you. I'm not telling you to reject the concept of God. I am telling you to be suspicious. I am telling you that you cannot know with certainty that the thing you are worshiping and praying to is God. And if you cannot know with certainty if you are worshiping God, then maybe it's better if you don't worship anything at all. That's why I have no ill will toward atheists, which is something that Mr. Zion doesn't get because he's a boo-boo kitty fuck, stereotypical liberal Christian who just, I believe in gay marriage, therefore I'm a good Christian. I'm not a naughty Christian like the Westboro Baptist Church. He has no forethought. He doesn't care. He's already been manipulated by such forces, whether material forces or extra material forces. The point is, he's a fucking dog. He's a lapdog to something else, and he is no longer his own person, if he ever was to begin with. And what he is now, because of what he's submitted to, is disgusting. Regardless of what you want to call it, even if you want to say it's free will, if it's his free will, he has willed himself to be disgusting. So I want nothing to do with him, and I will say nothing but bad things about him. Anyway, my point is that if we were to concern ourselves more with the materialistic things and, consume and things like that, we would not be a subject to spiritual invasion of our souls. So, yes, people should smoke, they should gamble, they should have raunchy sex, they should drink and do drugs, and they should do that as young as possible. Yes, I'm breaking new grounds here. There should be no drinking laws. There should be no age of consent laws. Things like that. Isn't that something? The guy that everybody claims is a homophobe doesn't really care what you're doing with your time. In fact, is saying that in order to get away from the mass control on a spiritual level, you should be acting like a fucking crazy slut. So, but you don't stop to think about that. You don't stop to think, well, how does he reach these conclusions? How does he go from A to B to C to D? No, in your mind, it's just, he said something bad, and then there was gay people in that sentence. Oh my god, he's a homophobe. That's your mentality because you're a fucking indoctrinated fool. And I have no time for you. I really don't. You're a fucking oaf. You're a disgrace. You're a humiliation to the species. You should be dead. It's that simple. So, that's really all I'm saying here. That's why I can hold with a straight face the deploring of homosexuals as a thing, as it's defined itself as, and at the same time, actually be very liberal on sex and things. Because I see it for what it is. I'm looking at it from a third-person perspective, and I see where all of it goes. I see where all of it goes of people are using both our sexual repression and sexual liberation for their own nefarious ends. I realize that nothing we do in life doesn't come without some kind of ulterior motive or foreign cause that is alien to our knowledge at the time. In other words, we're always acting in accordance to somebody else. Somebody else is commanding us to do something, whether or not we realize it. Maybe someone didn't outright tell you to do something, but they implied it, and that lasted on your psyche. You could go 10, 20 years from now, and that will still affect you. It will affect your everyday life. So, knowing that, we need to more so concern ourselves and surround ourselves with the material things so that these forces are not in a position to be able to control us. And you could argue that it's not going to help. You could argue that, in fact, by gambling and drinking and smoking and doing drugs and having sex with random people, that, it would make things worse and you would be more controlled. And you might be right. There is a solid argument for that. I'm just presenting to you what I know to be true, what I've experienced personally, and the knowledge I've accumulated and I'm trying to share with you as a reasonable, civil human being. And I get fucking banned for it. I get treated like shit for it. People mock me for it and walk all over me and tell me the moderators have the right to do it because it's their property. You have to ask yourself, what possessed them to think that way? What in their mind warped them to this state of being? When did they go from being just a normal, innocent child worrying about puppies and hugs and candy to being this piece of shit that thinks that everyone has the right to rape you just because they own some property, which is an arbitrary concept in and of itself? Clearly, property is not the answer. Clearly, property enables people to do very terrible things. So get rid of the fucking property. So, I hope that helps you, understand something better. I really hope that helps you dig deeper into your own personal thoughts and discover, grow and evolve. Become better than you were yesterday. And as much as people talk smack about me, that's my goal here, is to reach out to the people I know through self-evidence to be decent, wholesome people. And I don't go by the same standard as normal people because normal people are fucking evil. But I do have a standard. There is an objective standard. It's just not your standard because your standard is backward. Your standard was manipulated preemptively by another force, a very despicable, dark force. So, I guess that's it.